Hi, I'm Chris Hruska, and joining us today is Dr. Covington of the Communications Department. He is the professor of classes this semester that include Communication Law, Introduction to Mass Media, and Media Management. Dr. Covington, thank you very much for being with us today.
Great to be here, Chris. Thanks for the invitation.
We appreciate it. Now, to start off, would you mind telling us a little bit about where you originally were from and like where you grew up, kind of?
I grew up in northeastern Louisiana, and I became interested in radio at a very early age, and that expanded into other forms of media.
Okay. Now, did you go to school in the South for college and whatnot?
On my undergraduate, I attended what was then Northeast Louisiana University. Now it's the University of Louisiana at Monroe, and I also have my master's from there.
Okay. What's the biggest difference between the South and the North? Because you've lived in the South, you've lived in the North. Is there a big change, do you find, living up here versus down there?
Well, I find it even more nuanced, different parts of in between those two, because I've lived in Mississippi, Louisiana, Missouri, Ohio, Indiana, Massachusetts, Pennsylvania, and Missouri's culture is even different within the state, whether you're in St. Louis or Kansas City or the center of the state. Indiana is different from Massachusetts. Ohio, for example, at one time I used to think that Ohio was in the Northeast. I remember going to a conference in Akron when I lived in Kansas City, and I thought, I'm going Northeast. Okay. And then when I lived in Massachusetts, when I would come through Ohio, I thought, boy, this sure is the Midwest.
Yeah. So I guess really relative to where you're at,
Yeah.
that your whole perspective
Yeah.
changes. Now, what were your strongest subjects in school? Was it, because you mentioned radio, were you always geared towards like a journalism field, sort of, or?
Always been interested in communication. When I was about junior high age, around 14, I would pretend to be a DJ. I would go to my room and set the records up and the reel-to-reel recorders and record fake commercials that I had written copy for, and kept a log of distant radio stations that I could pick up the signals in these faraway cities and knew the DJs. And at that era, it was popular to have remote broadcast, and the DJs would be on location promoting a business for that weekend, and I was a groupie. Okay. I would be there and just, fascinated by it, stay for hours and be their fans and find all about the industry and ask them questions about it and that sort of thing. In fact, I remember one station, this was in Louisiana, the guy's air name was Philharmonic.
Okay.
They had names like Philharmonic, Tackhammer, and so Philharmonic, at one remote broadcast and just making conversation, he said, stop by the station and see me sometime. He didn't know I was going to literally take him on it because I was very passionate about it. And so he's in the control room. Somehow or another I slipped past the receptionist and all the other people, and he turns around in the control room and he says, in his mind, how did this kid get in the control room?
Now you were 14 at the time?
Yeah. Okay, I said, well, you
right.
told me to stop by the station sometime. Here I am.
That's awesome. Did he show you around? Did he take you in or
I've
let
had
you sit in? And
well, see, there's been I've found there are different kinds of people. Some of them want to mentor you. Others find you annoying. He wasn't particularly helpful, but that didn't keep me from my goal.
Right, you were out there trying to make it.
Exactly.
That's good. You had that determination at a young age. That was really good.
And that's another lesson in and of itself, that if you encounter obstacles, if you're passionate about your goal, you're not going to let other people tell you if you can or cannot achieve your goal.
That's very good. Now, since you are very passionate about the field that you're in, when did you decide at what point you wanted to become a professor? Was that something later in life, or was this also early on with the radio? And
I would say it's kind of both, because I can remember at a young age, somehow in my mind, my parents instilled in us the importance of an education. And I remember thinking, someday I'm going to be so educated, my wife is going to have a bachelor's degree just to understand me communicating.
Yeah.
And so I knew education was important. It was a passion for me, but it was kind of an underlying, not dominant passion, but something that was part of me. Because honestly, as an undergraduate, I wasn't the most serious student in terms of the
Okay.
books. I was more focused on what I saw as having practical, immediate results, like my broadcasting courses. In a course like physics, I would think, well, I don't see the relevance, you know, so I didn't really
Right.
try, but now I see it's all important. But at the time I thought, well, I'm going to focus on the speech courses,
Right.
the announcing courses, those kind of courses. But now I see how it all fits into a pattern, but then I didn't.
Yeah, because it all comes back into one big sphere
Yeah.
of like education, and you can
Right.
always pull from
Right.
pretty much any category from
Right.
education. Now, for you on a personal level, what is rewarding as being a professor? Like, what makes it all worthwhile that you say, I love coming to class and teaching students? What's rewarding about it?
I find satisfaction when I connect with students who are serious about what they do. I find, and this is a continuum, there are extremes at both ends of it. Some people, I have no idea why they're here. I guess they just don't know what else to do with their early adulthood. So they try to do the least amount of work. They try to work the system instead of doing the work. And those can be draining emotionally and just things you have to deal with. But when you come across a student that is passionate about what they want to do, they're doing this with a career objective in mind. It's not just going through the motions and taking up space. They want to learn. And when I find somebody who's really passionate, who's really professional, who conducts themselves like a professional, I really like to share what I've already learned, because when you've been in this business as long as I've been, there are some things that you know about it that somebody who's 20 or 21 doesn't know yet. So you can share that expertise with them.
So you kind of see yourself as a mentor.
Definitely.
Okay, that's very
But
good.
another thing about a mentor is it's a volitional thing. You can't impose mentorship on someone. It's like respect. Respect cannot be forced or coerced. It has to be earned. And if somebody really wants to learn, you can tell. And if they don't, you can tell that too.
Okay, so you kind of wait to see which students are passionate about their education, and maybe if they come to you, you're going to take them under your wing and
Correct.
teach them.
Correct.
Okay, very good.
And I might add, I have some that have been graduated for quite a while, and they're pretty far into their career, and they still, you know, ask my opinion on different things.
So the rapport continues after college.
Correct.
You stay in touch with many students.
Yeah.
Now, have you always been a professor here at Edinboro?
This is at the end of the academic year here, my 10th year, but I've taught at other universities, well, colleges.
Okay, and which ones were those?
Well, they're universities now, but they at the time were colleges. My first gig in higher education, where I made the transition from the industry to academics, was in Kansas City at Avila College. It was a private institution. I taught there, and then I taught at Huntington College in Indiana. I did a year as a graduate teaching assistant at Bowling Green State University in Ohio. After I finished my doctorate, the first two teaching positions was with just my master's. And then after I finished my doctorate at Bowling Green, I taught at Bridgewater State in Massachusetts. And the head of the department, Dr. Jabbar Al-Obaidi, and I are good friends.
Okay.
And we've co-edited a book, and we're working on other projects. I see him every year at the convention. And then from Bridgewater, now almost 10 years in Pennsylvania.
All right. Now, do you like Edinboro the best? Is that your favorite? Because you've been here for a while.
At this point, wherever I am currently, I like the best.
That's your favorite. All right. Yeah. That's respectable. Now, it has come up in class that you've written several books and that you've helped edit, as you just mentioned. Can you elaborate who your target audience is for these books, and like what motivated you to write them?
That's a good question in the sense that I do different kinds of writing for different audiences and for different reasons. In our business, you have, and by our business, that could really be defined two different ways also, the broadcasting industry or the academic arena. And so if you write a book that is scholarly, it could be for an academic broadcast audience. You could write, and I've done this, general op-ed pieces, editorial type material in different papers, and I've done that in different cities where I've lived. I've written academic scholarly journal articles for dissemination, you know, in higher education. I've written, I would call it popular press type material just for the general public. So I've written across different arenas, different genres for different audiences and different purposes. And I mentioned the Broadcast Education Association. Every year, the largest trade association of its kind, the National Association of Broadcasters and the Broadcast Education Association, meets in Las Vegas. And you have anywhere between 90,000 and 100,000 delegates from all over the world.
Wow.
And you network, you get to know people, and out of that conference I've had over the years colleagues that I've met, that I've gotten to know, journal articles, book chapters. I present an academic paper, I moderate sessions there. I'm currently the division chair for the Management Marketing Programming Division, and prior to that I was the newsletter editor, then the vice chair, competitive paper chair, and so I've worked my way up there. It was a leadership position for 6 years, and I'm concluding it this time.
Now when does this occur? This
every April.
Okay,
and,
so it's coming up then.
Yes, and like I said, I present a paper there every year, and I've gotten to know a lot of people, and not only that, but it's kind of like, I would say in a sense, a school reunion, except it's a career reunion, because of those delegates, you'll see people from different points in your career. Like, I remember this person from when I was working in radio in Missouri. I remember this person from when I was doing some other project. And you remember these different demarcation points in your career and what those people were doing with their careers at that point. And it's like a revolving door. They're in different jobs now, you're in different jobs now, but you're still in the same profession.
And it really helps with networking too, because you can say, hey, I need help in this field, or I know someone who's looking for a job, and you can really network. That's great. Now we do kind of, to close, we have some fun questions we like to ask.
Oh, good.
Just, you know, kind of get to know you a little bit better.
All right.
You just won, well, let's put it this way. You just won a chance to spend an entire day with a Hollywood celebrity. It can be anyone. It can be someone from the past or, you know, present day. Who would you choose to spend your day with? A Hollywood celebrity. Who would it be?
I'm not really big on Hollywood celebrities,
Really?
but I would think the person that, sometimes I joke about them, but I think one that probably has more substance and longevity that I find that my students don't even know who he is, Pat Boone.
Okay, right. He often comes up in your class. But I'm surprised you didn't say Angelina Jolie, because she always comes up in class.
Well, all right, now, people are going to throw tomatoes at me. And this is a personal preference thing, but personally I don't find her that attractive. Give me Paris Hilton.
Okay, all right, that's respectable. Very good. I honestly don't think she's that attractive either, but you know.
Now she's probably watching this.
Yeah, sorry.
She's in northwestern Pennsylvania.
Now Brad Pitt's going to come after us, you know. Okay, second question. Probably, this be a good one too. We learned in your mass media class about rock and roll and all the history of it and whatnot. So who, in your opinion, is the greatest rock and roller? Could be a group, could be a solo artist. Who do you think would be the top?
And once again, this is a very biased opinion. I worked with a man who was the producer-manager of the Louisiana Hayride, and he worked with a lot of famous people. He used to tell me these stories when I was in high school and college, and at the time I didn't really realize until I saw him literally in the history books, Horace Logan. He worked with Elvis.
No way.
So I'm going with Elvis and or Jerry Lee Lewis, because Jerry Lee Lewis is kind of not a direct relative, but related to a relative. My cousin is married to his cousin. Okay,
so all right, that makes sense. It's in the blood. You have to support it.
Yeah, so Elvis and Jerry Lee Lewis.
Okay, too bad you're not related to Elvis, too. I mean, hey, you have like a great rock history going.
Actually, I had a chance to meet him one time, because in the city where I was working with Horace Logan, he was doing because he had the connections with Elvis, this was after he was very well known, he was coming to Monroe to do kind of a concert just for a favor to Horace. And I could have easily gone backstage, met him and all that, but in my mind I thought, it's not that big of a deal, it's just Elvis. So I didn't even meet him. Man, you missed out. You could have got his autograph. I don't know. Okay, so our last question is, there's a movie being made about your life. What actor would play you? I look more at actresses than actors.
Charlie
Sheen.
Charlie Sheen? Oh, I don't know.
Winning.
Yeah, there we go. Do you have tiger blood? Is that why? Because you got Jerry Lee Lewis in your blood. Maybe you got Tiger blood too. I don't know.
My sense of humor is quirky for the people that don't know. They're
you have a great sense of humor.
Thank you.
And we really appreciate you being on the show. And thank you again, Dr. Covington.
Thank you, Chris.
So.